Hi, everybody. History again. So, we're going to talk a little bit more about Constantinople, which is the city that was all that was left of the Roman Empire when it all fell apart after they split into two bits. And then it spread back out again and was called the Byzantine Empire. And today I want to tell you the story of one emperor whose name was Justinian the Just. Convenient, right? Now, Justinian didn't have really important parents. He lived in the middle of nowhere on a little farm and grew up not special as far as anyone was concerned. He was just a normal kid. But he didn't want to stay and grow up working on a farm, even though that seems like something I would like to do. He wanted to go to the city and be famous and be special. So when he was a kid, he studied a lot. He learned how to read, and he spent all his time reading books of law and music and poetry and everything he could get his hands on. And he begged his family to send him to Constantinople so he could go to school. Eventually, they were like, okay, Justinian, this is clearly important to you. So they packed up his stuff and they sent him up to Constantinople. And he went there and started going to school. And when he got there, it was probably a really huge change for him because remember, Constantinople grew into this massive city. They had paved roads and 14 palaces and all sorts of fancy stuff going on. And this Justinian kid had just grown up on a farm out in the countryside. So it was probably a big surprise to him. And then he started school and he had to do things that I would consider to be pretty extreme. He had to memorize 50 lines of Greek poetry every day and learn how to make speeches in public. And he had hours and hours of homework every day learning about math and music and astronomy and all of this stuff so that he could be as educated as humanly possible because that was something that was really important to him. So he kept working even though it was hard. And when he finished school, he joined the army. He did a bunch of record keeping and ordered supplies and planned their campaigns. And over time, people started to see this Justinian guy and think, wow, he's pretty smart. He learned a lot. He's really good at this, like being in charge stuff. He's really good at planning. And people started to talk and think, hey, maybe Justinian would be a good emperor. Like when the one we have dies, we like him, but he's getting a little old. Maybe when he's gone, Justinian should be the emperor. And eventually, time went on, and the old emperor did die, and Justinian was named the new ruler of the Byzantine Empire, which is, remember, where Constantinople is the capital city of. Now, when he became the emperor, the Byzantine Empire hadn't grown that much yet. He was one of the people who started spreading it out and taking land back that the barbarians had taken back from Rome before. So he had read all of these books about the Roman Empire and how amazing it was and how great and big and epic. And he thought, you know what? I want that back. I want our new empire to be as good as the old Roman Empire was. So he recruited tons of people into his army and set off to reconquer a bunch of this land, all the stuff that used to be part of Rome. He got Italy and the north part of Africa and Spain and a whole bunch of countries around the edge of the Mediterranean Sea. He even took what used to be Rome away from the barbarians who were living there for a little bit. But in the process of doing so, it kind of destroyed the city, so it wasn't very good anymore. It was just left with a big old empty pile of ruins and didn't really matter. Now, Justinian didn't get all the land back that used to be part of Rome, because that was just madness. It was too big. But he did make the Byzantine Empire bigger than it had ever been before. And when he realized that he now was a ruler of all these different countries that all had different laws, Justinian thought, you know what? That's not going to work. I can't rule over all these countries with different laws. We need to have one big group of laws so that you can't do something in one country that's illegal and then run off to the country next door where it's not illegal and then not get in trouble for it. So he set out a huge set of laws that were for all of the empire. A bunch of scholars went to each of the countries and collected their laws and brought them back for Justinian to look at. And a bunch of ancient Roman and Greek laws. And he put all those ideas together and figured out what he thought was best and made what is called the Code of Justinian, which was his set of laws for the Byzantine Empire. I'm going to read you a few of those laws just so you can see what they're like. And I'm not going to read them in my words. I'm going to read them in the translated words of what he said. So, you ready for this? The Code of Justinian. The sea and the seashore belong to everyone. Every person in my empire is allowed to go to the beach. No one can tell them, I own this part of the beach. Get off of it. These may not be direct translations, but that's the idea. Think about that. That's something we have in Oregon. We have a rule in Oregon that you can't own the beach, so everybody can go and play at the beach. There are some states where people can own the beach, and they can say, you can't go on our beach. But Oregon doesn't have that. We have that in common with the Byzantine Empire and this Code of Justinian from way, way back. He had the same rule about rivers. He said, everyone in the empire can fish on the rivers without being told to stop. So he had this rule that all of the waterways belonged to everyone. He said, if you find a jewel or other treasure washed up on the seashore, you can keep it for yourself. He said, you are allowed to own slaves and make them work for you without pay, but you can't beat them unless they're disobedient. Now, that's pretty because slavery, not so good, but that's one of the laws that he had because back then, slavery was a big thing that was most of what the world was still doing. He said, a thief who steals something valuable must pay the owner 4 times what the stolen object was worth. So people definitely didn't want to be caught stealing back then. He said, if you're trimming a tree near a road, be sure to call out to anyone coming by. If you don't call out a warning and a limb falls on them and hurts them, it's your fault. But if you call out a warning and they walk under the tree anyway and a limb falls on them, then it's their fault because they should have paid attention. Isn't that a really specific law? Like, he specifically made a law about if you're trimming a tree and you see someone walking by, you have to warn them. I think it's really interesting and would love to imagine, like, what had been going through his mind that made him think, I need a law about warning people when you're trimming trees. Last one for today. He said, when a bishop or a priest or a pastor is praying or preaching out loud, it is a required law that he speak loud enough for everyone to hear him. If he doesn't, God and the emperor will punish him. So apparently, my guess is Justinian went to a couple church things where the priest was speaking too quietly and he felt annoyed and he was like, no, I will have a law that you have to speak up so I can hear what you're doing. That is our story of Justinian the Just. Next time we meet, I might tell you a little bit about Justinian's daughter because she was a very interesting person who had a pet bear, among other things. But for today, that is our history story. Have a good day. I miss you all and do some good work. Bye.